Hey, what's up guys? Trey here, really excited about this video. We're gonna talk about some game dev secrets, specifically how to create a hit game. And we're gonna talk about how to do this as a solo creator, not having some huge team. We started out with just 2 of us. And I think right now, really in the games department, we have like 3 or 4 of us. It's still comparatively a very small team. And we've had 8 games that have broken the top 25 of the App Store. And on top of that, on the Steam and indie game side, we've had a game that was greenlit on Steam. And I haven't really talked about this much, but even more importantly, it was the #1 game in all of Steam Greenlight back when they were doing Greenlight. Out of 2,000 games, this game was ranked #1. And I gotta be honest with you guys, it wasn't that great of a game. It was Phases, the first game we made with our software build box. Not a bad game. I mean, I made that game. I made that game solely by myself, from the music, the art, and everything. So I have a very emotional attachment to that game. But let's be honest, there was games that were much better below us. I mean, 3D full-on games that look like they should be on consoles. So how do we do it? How do we rank #1? How do we have so many hit games and 60 million downloads? In this video, I'm gonna show you the game dev secrets we use to create a hit game. All right, so I'm about to tell you the first secret that we use when creating games. And it's gonna be starting at the very beginning, before you even make a game. And a lot of people might think, you know what, this is not how I was planning on making a game. So listen, do it your own way if you want to. I totally get it. If you want to make a game that doesn't follow any trends, it's just a passion project, then by all means, that's totally cool. What I'm going to show you though is what we've historically seen work. And I'll tell you what we're going to also do. I'm going to walk you through some popular games, everything from Minecraft to Angry Birds to even Pong. And you're going to see that those games were all based on current trends. And that's where we're going to start. The first thing you're going to want to do is reverse engineer the hits. Here's what I mean. We're gonna open up both the iOS App Store and Steam and look at hit games and try to identify some current trends that are going on right now. So when you start creating your game, you're not creating something that was popular 3 years ago, all right? You're not creating something that people really don't wanna play anymore because they got completely sick of it. A great example is a jumping game. First, it was this game called Poppy Jump, right? Then after Poppy Jump came Doodle Jump. Then after that, we made a game called Jump Pack. There was various other games like Mega Jump. All those games were successful, but if you made one right now, chances are people are kind of sick of jumping. It's not a current trend. So by reverse engineering the hits first, before we even start, then we can create a game based on current trends that at least people are gonna probably want to play. Here's how we do that. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is I've got the App Store opened up here, and you can see we're looking at the top free games. All right, so on this left-hand section here is the top free iPhone apps. On the right-hand section here, you can see we're in the games section. And there's a reason that we're gonna be looking at the games. A couple reasons, actually. All right, the first one is there's a lot of turnover in the top free games on iOS. All right, and there's a good reason for that, because they're free, so they go viral, they kind of go crazy, they go up and down. Now, if you look at the top paid games, we have Minecraft, Heads Up, True Skate, Plague, Balloons, Monopoly, Geometry Dash, The Escapist, Grand Theft Auto, and Life are the top 10 games. We can continue going here. Terraria, Five Nights at Freddy's, Farming Simulator. I'm at game number 13, guys. We still haven't hit a new original title. Now that's a scary place to play in, all right? Again, if we look at this, the whole entire top row here are games that have been out for years, most of them. I mean, Terraria, Minecraft, Heads Up. We're talking about games that have been out a very long time. It's a slow turnover rate. You can imagine the difficulty of breaking into a top games chart like that with that kind of competition. All right, so now in the free chart, we see a lot of fresh games here. Bowmaster's brand new game, Toon Blast, just came out. Snake vs. Block has not been on there that long. All right, on this right-hand side over here, we can see Flappy Dunk and War Wings. I mean, Subway Surfer's been here a while. So is Roblox and Solitaire. But we're seeing about, I don't know what, probably 50-50, you know, some old classics. And what's really interesting, the ones in the very top here, Toon Blast, Snake versus Block, Bowmasters, and Word Connect, we're talking about games that are fairly recent. I think Word Connect's probably the oldest of that bunch, but the top few spots are almost always new inventory. That gives you a really strong chance. Now, there's two other reasons that I focus on the free charts when I'm researching games we want to create. And of course, you're going to research the type of game you want to make. If you want to make a paid game, then you want to reverse engineer hits into paid game space. Unfortunately, it looks like you got to create a really big brand, a Minecraft, skate type game to do that at this point in time. So that's another good reason. But also publishers. This is published by Voodoo. This game, Snakes versus Block, right here, okay? And if we go down the line, Flappy Dunk is also by Voodoo. And if we zoom out here, down here, Color Switch, really popular game, is published by Fortify. Balls by Ketchup, Space Frontier by Ketchup, Rider by Ketchup, Dancing Line by Cheetah Mobile. We see a lot of published games in this free store. And that's a big thing. If you want to go with a publisher, and again, if we're analyzing, reverse engineering this success, and we find out a lot of the successful ones went with a publisher, then we probably want to consider that. That's what we've done to build up our game business to now 60-something million downloads, right? Big fan of publishing. But if you didn't want to do that, then again, you would reverse engineer the people who had hits without being published. You have to identify a couple targets to reverse engineer to try to learn about what those games are doing, how they got in the position that they're in. All right, now the final reason that I go for free, and this is pretty interesting, if we go to the top grossing chart here, and we're still sorted by games, let's see how long it takes to get to a paid game. All right, so this first row is all free. All right, Madden is free. Yeah, Madden's free now as well. All right, and then the second row, again, we have all free games. All of them get. A couple of them that I've already downloaded here. All right, then all free games here. We're now at 36, the top 36. And here we go. The first one that is paid is, of course, Minecraft. Number 41. The top 40 of the grossing chart right now, grossing game chart, is all free games. So that shows you where the market is. All right, it's a tough market on the paid slot. Even if you get featured by Apple for a really cool paid game, chances are you're not going to bust through that top 10 of those games that have been out for years and are just kind of staples of the App Store. The free charts seems like it's a little bit of a different story, right? All right, so now what I would want to do from this point is isolate and figure out a couple of these. Now, we could look at Toon Blast. This is a pretty recent game. I think this is by the same company. I was thinking, yeah, the Toy Blast guys. They got a very similar art style with this one as well. Okay, so I haven't opened up Toy Blast. I can tell you guys from experience, I would think that they're probably heavily promoting this in Toy Blast. And Toy Blast has about a bagillion different downloads. So if we were going to analyze that one and try to reverse engineer how they became successful, then we would see that they had a hit game that monetized very well, could spend millions of dollars promoting it, and then when a new game came out, they would use that game to promote their new game and bring the users over. That's going to be a tough business model for you to try to go out from the game. And honestly, you probably don't want to make a match 3 game, right? I mean, it's kind of been done to death. And if you want to do an indie game and do something a little bit more soul involved into it, not hating, just saying in general, then you probably want to do something more on the indie side like we've done as well. All right, so if we go back and look, we have Snakes versus Block. Now, this I think is a fantastic example. I know the guys at Voodoo Games who signed this game, and they're really smart guys. They're accepting new submissions as well as a publisher. And this is a really good one that you could analyze and say, okay, why is this game successful? Why is this popular? And this is, of course, if you want to create a mobile game. We're about to do the same thing for Steam in a second. I'm going to stop with this one, but I think you get the idea here. But I'll tell you right now why this game is successful. And this is really interesting, and I've talked to, again, the publisher about this. The reason this game is successful is because there is a real sense of you getting bigger in the game, progression in the game, which increases retention. The longer you play, the longer you build your tail out, and the whole entire world is increasing in difficulty while you're getting stronger. That's a real strong progression there. All right, so this style of gameplay, and I'm not saying that you would go out and make a game with a bunch of balls on it or even a snake. The point is, if we analyze this and we see one of the top games in the App Store is published by a publisher who we could Google around and see that they are accepting new submissions, and on top of that, there's some really unique qualities about this game with user progression where people are building up strong characters to fight bigger environments, we got some pretty big hints about what's working right now, this second, in the mobile market. And if someone did not do that analysis and they didn't know that, then you would have a pretty big edge up on them, I think, if you could create a game like that for a publisher like Voodoo or one of the other guys out there, right? That's the App Store. We're going to leave the App Store, but the point is here, you want to reverse engineer the hits. You don't want to just wing it. That's where people go wrong. You want to have some sort of notes written down after looking at, like, wow, look, a lot of these games are minimal. That's interesting. A lot of these use isometric graphics. I wonder why that is. Maybe because the demographics are wider. You know, boys, girls, older people, younger people, they all like minimal graphics. But if you make a game with puppy dogs that are really cute, you're going to alienate, probably 75% of the population, right? You get an app to the top of the App Store and you alienate 75% of the population, you're going to have a problem getting downloads. So if you write down a bunch of notes on everything that you see after heavily researching the market that you want to launch in, you'll learn a lot about what is trending right now, what people right now are wanting to play, and then you can go create that. All right, so now let's check out Steam, because it's a little bit different, or a lot different, I should say, than the App Store. All right, so I want to get to our next section, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do this fast. It's similar, but it's going to be a little bit different because it's Steam, right? It's a very different platform. So we're going to click on Top Sellers right here. And when we do that, on the right-hand side, we can see they already have a section right here, narrow by tag indie. Assuming you're making an indie game, that's what you're going to want to look at. And here we can see we have all of these different results. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that we have Absolver being the top one, The Escapist, and you would want to do the same thing. You'd want to look and see what is currently trending in these games. I'll give you a great example, guys. Rust, which is a game I really like. I've played Rust a lot. Also played a lot of the similar games, the zombie survival games. Listen, those games are super popular. I love to play them, but the time has already kind of come and gone. Those are trending down. If you could look at all trends throughout life, from bell bottoms to zombie games, it's going to be on a bell curve. It's going to be shaped like a bell. And you have to time things when they're climbing that bell curve, not when they're already gone through the whole entire curve and they're about to plummet to the bottom. If I had to guess, I would say that zombie survival games aren't at the bottom, but they've already peaked for sure. So it might be a bad thing to focus on. All right, so what you want to look for instead is indie games that are fairly simple, all right, that are having a lot of success, and then try to figure out why that is. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but if we did, you would click on some and you would notice, and it might not be on page 2 or 3, it might be on page 5 or 6, but you would notice something is out of place. Something is a little bit higher than everything else. And out of respect for the people here on Steam, I don't want to go over and start guessing everyone's game, but I want to teach you what we do. We look for those little pockets, those interesting games that we're like, now why is this simple game this high up in the indies chart? What did they hit? Did they have a publisher? Did they have a community already before? How can we research that and find out what they did? And that's going to bring me to our second point. This involves heavily how people are launching their game and having success. And that is that you should start marketing when you start making. All right, so first off, in the gaming world, people hate talking about marketing, right? Marketing is like evil in the gaming world. But let me tell you guys something, all right? Anyone who's had a successful game, whether they know it or not, they were good at marketing. All right, I'm going to use Notch as an example with Minecraft in a second and show you how he did an amazing job marketing, all right, call it what you want, getting his game out there so that people could see it and millions of people could download it and buy it. I'm going to show you how he did a great job at that. But maybe someone has good connections with Xbox. Maybe they're a really good networker, right? Maybe they made a great game and they knew someone that knew someone that knew someone that allowed them to send the game to them. Whatever it is, everyone who's had success did something right, whether it was on purpose or by accident. If we can learn what that is, then we can actually do that on purpose, which is obviously a much better situation to be in if you want to create games full time as a business. So let's analyze Minecraft, all right? Because this is a really interesting story. In a second, I'm going to talk about how Minecraft was actually created. We'll get to that in the next part. But right now, I want to talk about how he actually started marketing this game when he started making it. Now, this is interesting. I'm going to show you guys the actual research I did. It took me about 5 minutes to set this up. But I wanted to show you guys exactly how I figured this out, because I want to teach you how to do it, not just tell you what I learned when I did it, okay? I'm going to teach you how to do this stuff yourself. So I knew I'd heard that Notch blogged about Minecraft way back in 2008, 2009 while he was creating the game. I wanted to find that blog and see how he built this community. What, did he post videos on YouTube? Was he posting just on a WordPress blog? I assumed it was a WordPress blog. And you know what's interesting is I actually followed that blog back then. I bought the beta and maybe even the alpha, I can't remember, of Minecraft though, and followed the whole story and loved it, right? But I can't remember exactly what he did. So I Googled this and I typed in Notch Minecraft blog. And you know what I found here was the wordofnotch.net. So I clicked on that and I was thinking, okay, this is probably gonna be it, but it just says the old site died, okay? Here's a new one. So what I did is I took this and I copied it. And I went to the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive. Now, if you're not familiar with this, this is where they archive all the websites on the internet. You can go back in time and see what people wrote. This is really good because a lot of times people want to delete stuff, right? You know, they might get really big and famous and they're like, you know what, I don't really want to share what I was doing, how I built this stuff. Usually it's because they're embarrassed about it or something like that. I get it. You know, things change and you might not want everything you wrote before to be out there available. Now, most people don't know, but you can actually remove yourself from the Wayback Machine if you want. So most people don't know that, and they don't really care probably. They're just like, yeah, I'll just kill this site, but they're not really thinking that much about it. So most of the time you can find information on the Wayback Machine that goes way back. All right, so we're here now. I'm gonna paste in notch.net. We're gonna browse history, and we can see it goes back to 2012. Now, listen, I know that he was making this game in like 2008, 2009. We go back here and see, and you know, he just says brand new site, doesn't have much information. Okay, brand new site in 2011, that's not gonna help us, all right, so dead end. So here's what I did now. I went back to Google and I typed in Minecraft blog, Notch, as you can see right here, but this time I actually changed the date and I did a custom range from January 1st, 2009 to December 31st, 2010. And the reason I did this is simple. If I'm having a hard time finding something specific, I can narrow it down just to look back in time during the date range. I'm gonna have a better chance of finding it. And I definitely did. I saw here on the second result, Notch's blog, Minecraft Alpha Server 0.1.0. And I knew I was onto something. So I clicked there and it pulled up this site and I noticed we had something right here. Let me scroll down so you can see that. Notch.tumblr.com. All right, so now we are on to something. Now we found Notch's blog that he was using back then when he was just starting to promote Minecraft. And here's the thing, guys. I don't think this was a purpose thing. I don't think that he did this on purpose, okay? I think that he was just blogging because he really cared and loved his project. And sometimes that's the best way to get something out there. A lot of times that's the best way to get something out there, right? If people see you're passionate about something, they see that you love what you're doing, then it's a huge momentum for your project. There's no question about that. If I look at the, let me give you a great example, that movie, Indie Game, the movie, it's amazing to watch these people just passionately creating games. And we do the same thing, right? You can think about the business side of the business and still be really passionate about what you're doing. You're right. I think if you combine those things, then you create really great things. If you look at Apple, I think Steve Jobs was extremely passionate, albeit a little crazy, but still, right? All right, so now we found his blog here on Tumblr. It's notch.tumblr.com, and this is where things get interesting. If we scroll down here and we see that we have post, want me to discuss something specific, and archive. Now, we can see the most recent one, no, this is where I'm at now. Let me go back to post here so we see all of them. Okay, great. So we can scroll down and see the most recent one is, let's see if it gives me a date in it. Yeah, 2013. So it's been a while since he posted here, but we can go to the archive. And this is when we hit goldmine. Because what we want to do is just kind of see how this happened. I'm not saying we're going to even learn anything from this. We might not. It's all research, right? We might just pick up on some ideas, though. How he shared the content. How do you get the content out there, right? Even if you're sharing a dev blog with everyone, how does anyone see it? So we're going to find out. All right, now we can see as a post in August 2013. Let me zoom in here so you can see it better. December 2012, October 2012, he was not posting much then. Then we go back, now look at this. In 2011, we had a good number of posts. Same thing in November 2011. Now we're getting into a good bit, and it just keeps going and going. And if we go to the very bottom here, how far back? Now we're in 2009 when he was actually creating and still in beta, I believe. And if we go here, this is the very bottom, And it looks like the oldest one on here is May 16th, 2009. No, May 18th. Yeah, right over, yeah, May 16th. I think that's it. Or May 13th, maybe. All right, Cave Tech Demo. Now, this is interesting. Listen, I noticed something immediately with this, all right? When we're watching this guy's dev blog, going back in history and seeing how this was done, I see something immediately, which is a lot of videos. And if we click on this, let's see if we can watch a video. And no, and they're probably all going to be removed. That's unavailable. But that's all right, because we still get to see a little bit of the history here and how this worked, all right? Playing around with the terrain, building a house and spawning a whole bunch of mobs and just sharing it. But you know, here's the really interesting thing to me on this, and that is that it's pretty much sharing images and video, and it was on Tumblr. Now, Tumblr was probably more popular in 2009 than it is now. So I'm not saying I would launch it on Tumblr, but if we were going to say how did Notch get his game seen when he was in development, I would say it was through a social platform like Tumblr. Medium would probably be better now. And then YouTube, right? And if any of these videos allowed us to actually click and see them, and some of them might, yeah, like this one does, and this one was pretty old. And then, let's see what the note is. No, it's just only one like. How amazing is that? Love like this back in history stuff. There's some really cool forum posts with Palmer Luckey where he's figuring out like how to create VR. Really fun to look at that stuff. Okay, so we go back over here, and this is his dev blog, guys. This is really where the dev blog was. I think was YouTube more than anything. Maybe he had it curated and organized on Tumblr, but I would say that most likely he was getting more push here. Now, what's interesting is the guy, I don't think this is Notch's account, right? Okay, so this is a fan account. That's even more interesting. Not only was he gaining traction on YouTube himself, but then other people are really excited about the project and sharing it as well. My synopsis would be that doing research on this, YouTube was a very important factor for the dev blog of Minecraft. All right? And I didn't have that information before I hit record on this video, right? I just pulled up nothing but his Tumblrs as far as I got, and I wanted to do this live with you guys. So if I was going to create a dev blog, I would focus on using some sort of platform to discuss, like Medium, that was popular and had some social features set in, and then probably publish the game also on YouTube. Now, from following Notch, I would not be surprised if he didn't also use Reddit or Dig back then, depending on how long ago it was. And Reddit right now is still very prime, great place to share what you're up to and stuff like that as well. Also, proper tagging and all that on YouTube, that would be a whole nother video, but that would be worth looking into as well if you wanted to do a dev blog, which would not be a bad idea. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, if you want to make a hit game, is our game dev secret. What we do in our company is to reverse engineer the hits. Now, the second thing is to start marketing when you start making. Get it out there. Let people know you're creating this game and try to build a community around it, okay? Now, the third thing you want to do, and now we're getting into creating the game, and this might seem obvious, but it's extremely important, and it's extremely important to do it right. I'm going to go into detail and explain exactly what I mean here. But the third step in this creation is that now that you have the data, create a game that people actually want. It sounds pretty obvious, but it's actually not, all right? Here's why. Most people think, okay, cool, I'm gonna go create a game they want. I'm gonna make this, again, totally unique based on all of this research data. Now, here's the problem. If we look through games that have been really popular, that have been financial successes, which allow the company to continue making games or the person involved, almost all of them have been heavily based on a previous game that was already semi-successful. All right, so when I say build something that people want, I do not mean to reskin or rip off or clone. I can't stand that stuff, and we don't do any of that. Go play any of our games, and they are very unique, okay? What I mean is you want to model and improve. Now, you have all of this data, all right? And a lot of times model and improve is not picking a single game, all right? It's picking multiple games and improving upon that. I'm going to give you some examples in a second. But in the previous two steps, you collected all this data. You've started this discussion. You know how you're going to start marketing this game from the beginning, right? Now you want to choose the exact game type you're going to create. And if we look through historical successes, I mean big games, Angry Birds, Minecraft, Clash of Clans, Pong, I mean go back in time, Pac-Man, all those games were heavily inspired by something that was already successful. Angry Birds by Crush the Castle. All right, Doodle Jump by Poppy Jump. Clash of Clans by Galaxy Life. Minecraft by Infiniminer. All right, we'll discuss Pong in a second. That's an example of doing it wrong, of pretty much just ripping off something. They got sued for that. We'll discuss that in a minute. But let's start with my favorite example, which is Minecraft. Minecraft was loosely based on the game Infiniminer. A lot of people don't know this. Notch did not completely create this voxel-style gameplay, okay? It had been done before a few different times. But I don't think he ripped off Infiniminer at all. In fact, not many people do. You'll hear that every once in a while, but I think it's pretty ridiculous. He added crafting to the game. He made, daylight and nighttime. I mean, he did a lot of unique stuff to that game that had not been done in Infiniminer, okay? And that's what Model and Improve is all about. With your research, if you find a game that you think is cool, and you find maybe a couple games that you think are cool, and you get inspired by these games, and then you go create something that is unique, but it is inspired and based upon the reality of those games existing, then you're going to have a much better chance of success because it has already been proven that people like those other games. All right, so you know that people are going to like the gameplay style, maybe the core mechanic, maybe the fact that it's a platformer, okay? It can be even that basic. Now, I'll give you a personal example in a minute. But this is what those guys did. This is what most successful companies did. Even Crossy Roads is Frogger in 3D, okay? It's not like they completely invented that gameplay style for the first time. Are there some examples of people who invented games that are completely 100% unique? Honestly, maybe you'll find one, but even the ones that people like to tout, like Braid, they weren't the first one. Jonathan Blow wasn't the first person to do time reversing, okay? Super Meat Boy was not the first game ever to be super hardcore and have a lot of wall jumping and be a platformer, It's very rare to find a game that is 100% original. All right. And in fact, you could argue it's a bad business move to try to create a game that is 1000% original and no part of the game mechanic has ever even been thought of before. Portal's a first-person shooter that added something really unique, Portals, to it. It's great to add unique things. That's where the improve part of Model and Improve come from. All right, so first, let me tell you what not to do. Then I'm going to give you a personal example of how I modeled and improved a game that broke the top 25 of the App Store, has, I think, 4 or 5 million downloads. Did really well and was the #1 greenlit game on Steam. Phases, I'll discuss that in a second. But first, here's what you need to make sure you do not do. And it's what Pong did, Atari did with Pong. They copied a game called Magnavox Odyssey. It's a weird name for a game, but it was actually the first, or one of the first home systems ever. And it just played a game that was basically Pong. And they saw the success of this, and then Atari created a stand-up arcade version which basically just took that game and turned Magnavox Odyssey into Pong, and then they started selling it, all right? It was a clone. It was what would be considered way, way too close. They didn't improve it. They just modeled it. You can't skip the second part of model and improve, or you end up just ripping off someone else. You have to be careful there. And Atari actually got sued. You can see the whole thing online and find all the documents from this. Had to pay a bunch of money. It almost tanked the company, and luckily they made it through that. Released at 2600 and had a lot of success, okay? But you have to be careful, obviously. We do not condone, I would never encourage or support or tell you that you need to copy someone. But to get inspired by someone, to get inspired by some games, great idea. So in my game Phases, and this last step, or in a second here, I'm going to talk about how we got this to be the #1 game in Steam Greenlight. But this game was heavily inspired by 2 different games. One I've already mentioned, which is Super Meat Boy. Obviously, nothing like Super Meat Boy. But what inspired me, I was playing Super Meat Boy at the time of creating this game, and I wanted to make a super hardcore game. In Phases, the original version was so difficult when I sent it to Ketchup, didn't know them, just randomly sent them an email. They said, we like the game, we love the art style, it's just so hard that we can't even get past the first part. And I wanted to make a game that was a mixture of the Impossible game and Super Meat Boy. Really, those two kind of mixed together, this really difficult game, all right? But I wanted to do it my own style. Then the other one, visually, I was definitely inspired by Electronic Superjoy. Now, if you look at Electronic Superjoy, you look at Phases, the games don't control the same, they're not very similar at all. but you can probably see some inspiration, some black and white with some cool colors, etc. So if you take Super Meat Boy, if you take Electronic Super Joy, and throw in a dash of the Impossible Game, then you'll see the inspiration for Phases. You can see where it was modeled and improved off of being inspired from those games. And that's what I heavily suggest that you do, especially if you're creating your first game. Because until you've had multiple games, until you have fans, until you have a community that is really excited about what you're releasing, then you want to make sure you create something that people want to play. Easier said than done. But a really easy way of doing it is to base it upon things you've already seen successful, and then think about, how can I make this better? And all the games that we listed earlier, they did make it better. Angry Birds had better graphics than Crush the Castle and added in multiple bird types. All right, Doodle Jump had improved graphics, power-ups, and much more than Poppy Jump. All right, our game Jump Pack that improved upon Doodle Jump had really cool laser beams, all kinds of crazy stuff, customizable characters, and more. So don't forget the improve part of model and improve. Now for the fourth step in our game dev secrets. And this is to package it all together perfectly. Now listen, another one that seems obvious and then you dive in and it's not. All right, the design has to be perfect. The sounds have to all be in key and be perfect. The music has to flow with the game and also be trendy. You don't want to put heavy metal in most games, all right? If you have some games that can work, but typically that's not a big trend right now in the market. And then the final part of this, which is the most difficult, is polishing. Your game has to be expertly polished. You want to see a great example of this? Play Inside by Playdead. It's on Steam and also Xbox. It's so good. Great game anyway. It's the same guys that made Limbo. And this game is so expertly polished. It just feels like you're really in that world. One of the biggest ways to pull someone out of a world, pull them out of your game, is they start seeing bugs. And I don't mean crash bugs. I mean just like, their foot's going the wrong way or something. Or, you've seen it on Reddit or on the internet where the game fixes goes super wonky. All right, that pulls people out of the game really hard. Even in a 2D game, clipping, all that kind of stuff. It's a pain to polish. It's a pain. I mean, it's the biggest issue. One of the 5 biggest mistakes that we see new people making. In the last video, we go over all 5 of those, and that's the final one. And it's the most difficult, right? Polishing is really hard, but it's really, really important. When you start sending your game out and doing real marketing after it's finished and start sending it to game reviewers and news sites and blogs and posting it on Reddit and trying to get big YouTubers to show your game. And if you're already marketing on YouTube, then that's probably going to help you out in that arena, right? Maybe you've already had some of them shared at that point, like Minecraft did and many others. But if you're going to do all that and then you deliver a product that's not polished, that's not perfect, you didn't put it all together, you got all the pieces, you did all the research, but you just didn't deliver the final cohesive product, then you're going to have a problem. And we've seen a lot of people get to this step, right? They work hard. They go through so many different renditions, right? They make the graphics over 10 times. They choose different music and all this stuff. And finally, they get this final product and it's just not put together perfectly. The trailer's a little weak. The game's not polished. The levels are, just not perfect. So you really want to spend time to do that right. All right, so that's the 4 major things. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is looking for hacks. And this is a fun one. This is the one that I enjoy the most probably with game marketing. It's rare, it does happen, but it's really fun to do. So we're gonna throw this in as a bonus number 5. That's looking for launch hacks. Now, this doesn't always happen with us, but this is how we got to the top of Steam Greenlight back when they were doing that. So I think it's worth talking about this. And we've used this before to get the top of the App Store too. I'm gonna use both examples, okay? This is pretty good stuff. So initially with Phases on Steam, I did what everyone else did. I just uploaded it and nothing really happened, okay? It was bombed, it was at the very bottom. This is before I had 4,536 comments and all this kind of stuff. It was doing absolutely terrible. So I tried it the total normal way, which I've learned over time, very rarely does the normal way actually work. All right, so then I thought, okay, I gotta do something. So I started researching and I was typing in Google. I can't remember. I was trying to find the specific page, but it was an article on Game Sutra, all right, which is a great website if you're into creating indie games and game dev. You probably already know it, right? And someone was talking about how they did a promotion with free Steam keys, where they gave their game away if you voted for the game. Now, I've seen some people do this, and it was a little bit shady where they required that you vote positive for the game. This was controversial, I'll 100% admit. Completely controversial, probably still is, okay? But green light's done, so whatever. But anyway, so I decided to try this out and see if it would make a difference. So I ended up partnering with Indie Kings. I didn't pay them or really do anything. I just talked to them and said, hey, look, if you want to, we can give away keys if someone votes. They don't have to vote positive, just vote period. They can vote negative and still get a free key to this game when it comes out. And we did that. And it took off like crazy. That ended up going viral through their community. Then multiple other Steam groups started jumping on this as well, and it just completely took off. Next thing you know, we had 69,000 unique visitors in the 70 days that it was on Greenlight. It hit #1, which was out of 2,043 different games. We got 36,000 yes votes and ended up getting 1,400 followers on this Steam account. Just absolutely phenomenal results. And you can see here when we did the promotion, look at this. Just went completely normal right here and then boom, just really took off, which was pretty phenomenal. Now this next hack, this next launch hack is an interesting one in the App Store that we noticed around 2011. It does not work anymore, all right? But it's interesting. And guys, there's stuff like this all the time. So we noticed some games were ranking high in the App Store that really probably shouldn't be. They weren't bad games, they just weren't that good. All right, so if we're gonna go back to this free chart, and we're going to pick a random game here, okay? I'm going to choose this Bowmasters game. And we would see a game that was doing really well in the charts. We didn't really understand why. And then I noticed whenever you clicked on this game, you would see these really long company names. This is just Plagendary, and that's it, right? But you would see these super long company names. It would be like best, cool, fun, free, fun games for boys, girls. Just really ridiculously long name. And I kept seeing that on some top games. And of course, I was wondering what was going on. Like, why are these games, or why are these companies named like that, and why are these games ranked high? So I started searching on my iPhone and noticed, oh my God, if you search best game, they're ranked #1. Fun game, they're ranked #1. Boy game, girl game, or any variation of that. Best fun game or best girl game would make more sense. Best boy game, they were ranking #1 for all those search results. So Apple, for just a few months, or maybe about a year, was giving more weight to the company name than the app name, than the keywords, than anything else. So you literally could change the name of your company and then you would get a lot of downloads. And we did it and got a lot of downloads. I think we got like 10 million that year. Now, that doesn't work now, but there's always some kind of launch hack like that that's going around, especially when a platform's newer. But even with Greenlight, it had been around for a while. So it's worth checking out. I'm putting this one last because it's not what made our success, right? The games that we had the most success with weren't the ones we used hacks with. In fact, a lot of times those did the worst because they weren't popular because they were great games. It was because we figured out a hack, right? The most success we had was creating really good games that were proven, that were based on games that were popular before, and then we added something unique. And we really had a great presentation. All the graphics tied in, the music, the whole thing really came together. And then honestly, these days, we go with a publisher. I much rather split the revenue and let someone do all the work of getting the app to the top of the store, and I don't have to deal with that. So you might want to look at that as well. And I think it depends on the market. With Steam, you might not find that's what most people are doing on the App Store. You might find that they do that with free apps and they don't with paid apps, but it's worth doing the research before you get into any of this to make sure that you don't waste your time in game dev and that you do take the right steps to create a hit game. All right, guys, this is Trey. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped you out some. We'll talk to you later. Peace.